He's
And
also.
we're going live, and I'm cutting you off to avoid an overly political conversation.
It's gonna be
This
that
is
political.
great.
He just likes guns, and he's attracted to the girl at the gun store who got him to buy a gun because she's attractive. And I was like, "Am I not attractive enough for you, Sean? I've been lifting just for you, man."
No, you're not.
I'm not.
It's
I'm not
not.
attractive
I'm
enough for
sorry.
Sean. Oh,
Oh
that's a
man,
terrible way to start. I'm so sorry,
it
everybody.
is.
No,
It
we're
is.
doing
But
great. This is
such
great.
such is life.
Hey.
So hi, this is Silver Scraps episode 2. We actually, for the first time in show history, have Silver Scraps branded overlays. This is great.
Isn't it crazy it took us this long? Like it took us a long time.
It kind
It took
of
a long
is.
time to get here.
We
Yeah.
are some lazy motherfuckers.
Yeah. We were like, we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna do great. We're gonna make content because we want people, like, we want to make content that people get excited about. Not just excited about, but it's like a little bit more professional. And they're like, but how professional is professional, right?
Exactly. And I'm sitting here like, because this is the first time I've ever set this up, and I'm like,
Oh,
I fucked up here, and I fucked up here, and I fucked up here, and so on.
oh,
But
fuck.
so we have news from the last
look at my
time that
kitchen.
we
It's a mess.
that we were here.
Sorry.
We are going into semifinals. There are 8 teams on the screen right now. Unfortunately, 4 of them are gone.
Rip.
Yeah.
Yeah, get fucked, GSG. You broke my heart too many times.
You know what? I'm just happy we're here. So we are saying goodbye to BDE, Monkeys in Training, TD,
Supernova's gone.
Supernova, yeah.
And then GSG IOTA. So good. Well done for all of them getting here.
Yeah.
But their journey kind of fell a little short.
It happens. 3 of those teams were eliminated, and one of them is unable to field an eligible roster, so they are eliminated. And third place is going through, which is TD Syndicate.
Yeah.
For someone to win, someone else has to lose.
That is
the rules.
The
rules, yes. So we're
not even philosophy. It's just the rules.
We're not going to dwell too much on the past here. I think really the only real thing that can be taken away here from my end is that I think that this was, we'll call it an underperformance from BDE, given their dominance that they had in RA.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's the most surprising thing that the ZGG teams are gone, given that they have, we'll call it lower powered rosters compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, non-exception players, essentially.
Right. Like there is no allowance of any gold player whatsoever on there. So, words. I can't words. So
you're good.
It's something that I'm curious about to see that if Worlds happens again, if this continues, where the teams that finish first, right? Like that they have the longest gap between their league finishing and Worlds are going to have this issue. We see it frequently in other leagues where the teams with buys often are the ones that are most prone to being upset.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's interesting to me to a degree where like it's like regions in pro scene, right? Like how not necessarily 1-to-1, right? You can't create one, like it's not like the exception players are imports or whatever necessarily, but just relative power levels for practical reasons across different tournaments. And I don't necessarily, kind of getting a little bit meta here, but I don't necessarily know if that's like a thing that needs to be solved, right? Like I don't know if that's a problem.
I don't think it needs to be solved. I just think it is we'll call it unsurprising. You get what I mean? Where the teams that have the most harsh cap and the most restrictive eligibility requirements are the ones that have performed the worst. Does that make sense? That's
it'll be interesting to see if that pattern maintains. If we end up having another amateur Worlds, right?
Right, and the other thing is also like team with the most break, right? Like BDE and TD Shadow had by far the longest break between their league ending and World starting. So, given experience in like ZGG, EDL, etc., right?
Weeks, fuck you.
Those teams that are dormant tend to be more prone to being upset, if you will. So, with that all being said, we're going to start talking about the rematch of EDL finals.
That's our match.
of
Our
EDL
match one, right?
finals.
Match
So
one.
We have Coachless
Ooh,
Phoenix
his graphics, Leper, my guy.
I know. Let's take a moment.
See.
A round of applause for Leper. Those graphics look great. Do you want to? Who made them, by the way?
So there were a gentleman from the Coach Curtis's Mid Lane Academy named Taco Hell. He was looking around to try to find projects because he's trying to get more into graphics, and I was like, "Hey, I do this podcast, and you can make me some graphics, right?"
Yeah.
Right.
And here we are. So
wonderful. Thank you, Taco
start breaking down this matchup. So are these? So again, you guys are much more familiar with EDL than me, so I'm going to play my go-to role, which is stupid dummy, and ask a bunch of questions to the two of you. So we are still seeing, in my understanding, the same 5 players from finals. Is that right? Or am I
Looks like it.
No.
Looks like no.
See, this is why I asked. I'm the stupid dummy. This is why I ask questions.
One change.
Okay.
And that is the TD Syndicate top laner.
So you have Zedekai coming in
instead
I
of
think I'm saying that right.
Correct. I don't know how you say it, but instead of who played in the EDL finals was the player Leet, Leyt, that some people may know.
You have so this was actually when I was looking at the players and sort of going through the match history and stuff like that. This was the matchup that I'm most interested in. It's Downfall versus Zedekai. Like both these players, even just going off OPs, you're like, wow, these are like 56% win ratio for Downfall, a 62% win ratio in ranked for Zedekai. Like these are obviously like good players, and you look at the match history, they're performing well on these like hard carries. Like Zedekai's playing like the Gwen and the Jax and shit like that. And Downfall, I think we know historically from his time or their time in CGG that they are like a pretty carry oriented player. So I am really excited to see the two of them clash. That's kind of my spot.
And maybe it's because I'm a Downfall simp at this point, but every game that he's in, it's a top lane game. Like other shit's gonna be important. Other shit's gonna be a part of it. But I am just that he's one of those guys. Downfall and Chicky Pie, like these are guys that just attract attention to them. They're just chads in the top lane that makes stuff happen.
We saw it with CT playing in their group, right? We had other, we'll call them Chad top laners from EDL. We had RNG Cherry playing in there, right? Who was an
another attractive
terror in EDL. And the thing that I'll say, it's not just Downfall specifically, because back when they were TFF Solar Flare, this wasn't as a pronounced thing, but they've evolved. And they play this very, very top-driven macro style, if you want to make it that put it that way, right? I'm not going to sit there and say that they always 4-1, right? But like Downfall is drawing pressure, he is moving across the map and is playing counteracting to the other 4 on the team. They may sync up. And it's not to sit there like he was playing when they played BDE last week. It would be the kind of thing where he would just immediately, the moment he would crash a tower into Cherry's, crash the wave into Cherry's gangplank, he would just roam off into the rest of the group, right? It just is the way that this team macros requires, like as a bare minimum, your top laner cannot be run over by Downfall. If you do not have that check mark like checked on your list, you cannot beat this team.
You think TD Syndicate has like? Do you think I'm not gonna be able to pronounce this. Zedekai? Do you think he's got
that sounds right.
Zedekai? It sounds cool. It's a cool looking name. Do you think this is gonna be a Downfall runs him over kind of thing, or do you think it's gonna be a bit more even matched?
I don't know. People keep we can say in every single league, and I mean every single league, right? Even the one IBS league that Downfall did not play in, since January of this year, Downfall has been the top laner that every single other top laner has been judged against.
Yep.
And
I mean, you had the lane against him plenty of times, right?
yeah,
I mean,
I can't beat him, but I can at
Right.
least hold. You know what I mean? Like I can
Yeah.
meet the criteria, right? So like if you can meet the criteria of being able to match him in lane, not die 1v1 and so on, and keep the wave out, right? You've met criteria 1. Now it's on the
Yeah.
rest. Now we have to move to the rest of the map.
Yeah.
But if you fail criteria 1, it's just over.
Yeah, I am interested because Zedekai it does seem like a carry-oriented player. Like looking at their champ pool, looking at the match history in amateur worlds, looking at their, like I said, just solo queue stats. I mean, they're kind of nutty.
And they've been absolutely performing in Amateur Worlds.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely. So I want to see. What I want to know is which team is more confident in their carry-oriented top laner. Are they both just going to send their, like, put them in the gulag, right? And say, all right, we're going to put you on fighters. We're going to put you both on fighters and just see who wins. Or is one team going to play more for, like one of them going to say, okay, well, this is a coin flip matchup. So we're going to play a little safer, maybe put the Ornn down the Scion, something like that, or see how they evolve and pick them
I
up.
don't know Zedekai's champion pool. I know that Downfall is perfectly happy to pull out the Tom Kench. He's perfectly happy to pull out the Ornn and these scaling team fight champions if necessary. And he's perfectly capable of doing it. That's how he came onto the scene, was playing these tanks. So how hot takey do you want me to get?
Yeah, I would say let's start at a medium. Let's go with a medium.
Let's go like a jalapeno, right? Like we're not Serrano, we're not habanero. Let's keep it jalapeno.
I mentioned it briefly last week, and it's what makes this game really, really hard to look at in just lane by lane, right? Because we can when we look at it lane by lane, it doesn't put the whole picture together, right?
Exactly.
This is a team, TD Syndicate.
I don't know how you think that's the case. I'm being a shit. Don't listen to me.
Okay. The TD Syndicate has beaten CT Tyranny. And they have players, and part of this is playing in the same game, where TD Syndicate is one of the teams that is more consistently able to take games and series off of CT Tyranny. But it comes from early game momentum and not letting CT ever establish themselves in the game. Like, that's what makes, to me, and why CT Tyranny has been my favorite team to win Amateur Worlds. You can't just, like, beat them once and have a solution, because you can't just beat them by a draft or a pick or a particular
It's how you play you have to go in every single game and win every single game, with each one being unique from the last. You have to win that early game every single time.
Exactly.
That's what I'm hearing, at least.
Exactly. And now I absolutely believe that the two TD junglers, Jesus Juice 13 and Super Square, in this game, specifically Super Square 04, are capable of doing it. They've both done it, right? That it's just both TD teams, and I know I'm going to talk about this more when we get to TD Shadow, rely on their jungler getting the early game momentum and taking over the game and allowing their team to get rolling. We have seen.
I'm looking at CT, and how the hell is Super Square going to do that against the CT roster?
I've seen it done.
I'm seeing,
I don't mean it's hard. It's hard.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah. Super Square is an incredibly good jungler. He comes out. He plays very, very aggressive, very high tempo with things like Olaf, Diana. He does it on fucking Mordekaiser, to be blunt, right? Yeah. Like, he is going to take over this game if you don't stop it. Now, you have to track him. You have to be aware of oddball pathing, He's going to try to play mind games. He's going to try to go out of the box to start getting his laners ahead. Because if he can get his laners ahead, we've seen it many, many times this Worlds already, that Agent C6 and Rhymes are able to carry that late game, right? With things like Zeri. It's not like on Super Square entirely, but it's also like, if you see the BDE game was the only CT game on stream last week. So, like, if you give CT Jax, Victor, and Ezreal and let them safely scale into the game, what are you going to do?
Right. Yeah. And that being said, and Super Square is, and again, not that this is a super metric to go by, but Super Square is the only exception player that will be in this match. Everyone else
across
is
both teams.
yes,
in this matchup,
yeah, in
this
this
best of
matchup
five.
particularly. So we've got some folks like Downfall who are is like a high rank with a high win rate, so like they probably could count as an exception player just for the sake of discussion. But Super Square is
an exception in
the
my heart.
exception. Exactly. So, but yeah, Super Square obviously putting up huge numbers. I do want to touch a little bit on the bot lanes for both of these. So we've got Raining Wolves and Albedo. Is I saying that right? I'm always so bad with names.
Albedo, yeah, that looks
for,
right.
Yeah.
For CT, and then Agent C6 and Rhymes for TD Syndicate. So I'm most interested in this AD matchup because with the durability patches, I feel like AD carries have gotten more and more important. They've been kind of not irrelevant. It's not the right word, but it's you really don't notice an AD carry unless they're 10-1 and melting everybody. Yeah,
Are you talking about current patch or previous patches?
Previous patch.
Right.
So
I mean, previously it was like burst shit, like fucking Zeri or Tristana or Jhin, Lucian, and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we're gonna see how that evolves, how the AD carry position kind of evolves. And I like Raining Wolves' Shampool a lot. I like the Ezreals, I like the Misfortunes and the Jinxes. And then I also like that they have that whole, they've played it a couple times, I believe. Correct me if I'm remembering it wrong, Leopard, but like the Senna Tom Kench thing where Raining Wolves is on the Tom Kench. I'm a big fan of that lane, especially if you're going to be like playing toward top side. Like if you want to put like Rocky and Downfall playing for each other, and then putting Raining Wolves and Albedo on the Senna Tom Kench. I think it's a really good way to they have a lot of options to swap.
Just to even put this out there too, right? Given the three players involved, right? If you're red side, right? CT is red side, and they open up with Senna Tom Kench, you have no idea where those picks are going, right?
Don't know.
Because both people in the bot lane play this. Downfall plays the TK, right? Like these things can go anywhere. And you just don't know what that setup is. And it provides them a ton of flexibility.
Take a quick point, or I want to jump on something that you're talking about, Decker, where there's a scenario where these junglers, and obviously these are long series of games, so this isn't necessarily ubiquitous, but talking about them like favoring topside almost, and I wonder how much is either Rocky or Super Square going to really care about the top side of the map?
Well,
are they going to put is that just like you let it go and coin flip it for your side, regardless of which side you're on? You let them coin flip between each other, and you put your. And from everything I've heard, and I'll get my perspective out here now. It sounds like the fulcrum of things, the point that or the thing that you want to try to be putting pressure around, is kind of like towards you want to try to put your pressure on the bot side, right? Is the way that I'm kind of picking up on the vibes here. Do you guys disagree? As like I'm thinking from the jungler mindset, right? I'm trying to jungler mid duo is going to try to probably put the most pressure bot side for both of these teams. That's my takeaway from what I've heard so far.
If you listen to the Tyranny players, Rocky doesn't do anything except farm his jungle. So
sure thing.
Hey, there's value in that. There's value in that. I don't let anyone say otherwise.
The players that I feel, I'll put it in this simple way, right? Because we are the players that we feel from the TD side need to really, really perform are Super Square and Agent C6, right? And so
what does perform look like? Like what does that even mean? What is the definition of perform in this context?
These are the people that victory is going to come on the shoulders of in this context, is what I mean, right? You're, and I don't even mean it in the sense that either one needs to pop off or whatever, but these are the two driving forces in just about every TD Syndicate victory, right? You don't really see that there's situations where Lemon Sap carried the team on his back over the finish line alone, It's gonna. That's not to take away from Lemon Sap. They're a good mid laner. They wouldn't be here if they weren't, right?
Right.
But they're not to me. They're not a standout mid laner the way that some of the other players are. So yes, I think that I agree with you that I think Syndicate is going to be bottom focused here, but I don't know where Rocky and CT Tyranny are going to focus, because quite frankly, they can focus anywhere and make that
Right.
work.
And it's really going to be about like who can adapt to the series, right? I
It's
think
a
that
best of 5, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a best of 5. It's a long series. I think that R5 is going to be a huge pick here. If I don't, to me, there's not a lot of just like crazy OP shit in the meta that you have to be one. So to me, it's like both of these teams should be looking for red side, getting the R5 and putting that. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think you're either putting that on top lane or support, so that you can guarantee either your top lane in a fighter really good matchup or your support to dictate the 2v2 down bot lane or the 3v2 with the jungler, and playing for whatever strong side that you're able to adapt to that game. So we all these have been best of 1 so far in the group. Am I right there? That's correct, right?
Yes.
That is correct.
So we're now going to test adaptation, and this is the fun part for me to watch. But watching a best of 1, I mean, I enjoy it, but it's not as interesting to me. I like to see teams come in with a pick ban, come in with a strategy, and then that shit just blow up after game 1 and be like, all right, we got to retool this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come back to like coaching and support staff. So we get to look at which organization we think has more support behind them to help them adapt throughout the series.
CT Tyranny has no support staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's in their name.
They are coachless.
True.
It is.
Hey,
it is.
Netis is their contact, right?
I mean, that's true. You've got the 7 people on the roster, right? You've got the 5 starting players. You've got Yes Parade and Bickle as like literal supports, but also like support staff, if you will, right?
Right.
Yeah. I will do think that there are more, that the pressure is on TD here in the draft, given that you're so reliant on Super Square getting his picks that there's almost an argument that could be made to go blue side and prioritize something for him early.
All right. Do we want to jump to the next matchup, or do you have any other final thoughts?
Well, but I don't have any more final thoughts. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say I think that this series is gonna go CT Tyranny 3-1.
I don't believe in 5-game series, so I would say
what? I'm sorry, Decker. What?
Not in silver and gold. I don't believe in 5-game series in silver and gold. I don't think that low elo teams, which again I would classify as silver and gold, are capable of adapting well enough to like bring series back. I believe in 4-game series because a team goes up 2-0 and then gets cocky, ego drafts, loses that game, and then wins the next one. But I don't believe it. But it happens, of course it happens. But I think it's rare. So I
was retired off of a fucking reverse sweep in a semifinals game. So you go fuck yourself.
It happens. I just think if I'm a betting man, I'm never betting on 5.
Sure.
Games.
Well, I'm a bet. I don't gamble, so I'm gonna say best of 5. It's the full fucking thing.
The last,
I don't know who's gonna win, but it's gonna be best of 5.
You gotta pick. Come on, Tex. You gotta pick.
Fuck, dude. Coachless Tyranny kind of has my number here, or I have their number or something. I don't know. Whatever. I think it's gonna be a 5-game series. I think it's gonna be really competitive. It's my gut check because I think these two teams have a lot to show. But I do think Coachless Tyranny has the edge, at least in my mind.
I will pick the antithesis, and I think that TD Syndicate will win. I say 3-1 only because I think they'll throw one game or ego draft one game. I believe in the top jungle of TD Syndicate. Both these teams are great, but I'm going to put my eggs in the Zedekiah Super Square duo, top jungle, and say they're going to win 3-1.
Okay. I think that's completely fair. So, with that...
Next match.
Another series.
Oh, we got a cool graphic transition, right? I'm watching the stream. I shouldn't be watching it.
So am I.
I want to see it happen.
Oh, look at that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Is my internet stuck? It hasn't happened yet for me.
Okay, that's kind of funny.
So we got TD Shadow versus TDR Junior.
Yes.
Any opening thoughts on this matchup? Hey, it finally happened.
So this is okay. So TD Shadow is the number 2 seed from Runeterra Academy, and my understanding is that TDR Junior is the number 2 seed from OCL. The Optimal Championship League, I believe, is what OCL stands for. Yep, Optimal Championship League, yes.
Interesting. Okay, so fucking 2 TD teams, man.
Yes.
TD Shadow. I'm looking at rosters right now.
So these 2 teams, so of the 20 starters in semifinals, the only player that was not in their role on their team in their respective final, right, is Zedekiah from TD Syndicate. So all 10 players in this matchup played in their role in the finals.
Okay.
Beautiful. And we have and to be clear on the again, I think this is fair to point out. So on the side of TD Shadow, we've got 2 gold exception players in Jesus Juice and See the Dark. And on TDR Junior, we have 1 in Kuro. I can't. Leper, help.
I have no idea. I'm not even gonna try.
I'm gonna say Tide. I'm gonna call them Tide.
To be more specific, Jesus Juice 13 was the gold exception player when RA started. See the Dark is an exception under the returning starters exception, if you want to call it that, right? They were allowed to climb via amateur tournament rules because they are a returning starter.
Yeah, but I will say I think the average rank for these teams pretty close. A little bit in the favor of TD Shadow, but again, we know that rank doesn't mean all here. So let's get to some hype matchups. So let's just throw the exception players in the gauntlet here. So we've got See the Dark in mid and Tide. I'm gonna go with Tide again in mid. Where do we think these 2 players stack up? Which one of them is abusing more OP champions? And I see them both playing a lot of Swain, which is obviously an incredible champion right now, and it's going to be in hot contention, I think, for the series. My guess is it's going to be either like banned or B1'd, maybe like R3'd. It's probably going to be a huge R3 if it's not banned.
It's one of those things that's always interesting, right? Like, I have seen See the Dark play for a while now, right? I at least one other split. And I know that there is a thing that you do not let See the Dark have, and that is Vigar.
Yeah,
you don't do it. You just don't do it.
Not even worth dancing with, huh?
No, it's not. Because, like, okay, Vigar is one of those champions like Ornn, okay, where just about every IBS player, given enough time, can pull this champion out, and do sort of maybe okay on it, right?
Right.
And then there are Ornn players and Vigar players. And See the Dark is a Vigar player. He actually knows how to be oppressive on this champion. He's going to solo kill people. I don't mean that like in a way, right? But like he knows the ins and outs and the limits of this champion. So like I personally, not knowing Tide, right? I feel that See the Dark has the advantage here, partly due to competitive experience, partly due to having played with Jesus Juice before, right?
Real quick, remind me again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but remind me again, which team comes from OCL, or are both of these coming from OCL?
TDR Junior comes from OCL. TD Shadow comes from Runeterra Academy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
it's hard. Like, I don't know. And I'm sure that they both have incredibly deep champion pools. I know that See the Dark is very difficult to ban out. It's also, like, since we're already talking about bans, you also have probably the most 1v9 player in all of the semifinals here in Jesus Juice 13.
Oh, okay, I was going to ask if that was Jesus Juice or not.
Yeah, it's Jesus Juice, right? Like, okay. The only way I could say this
I
is
totally
that,
lost him for a second.
no,
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, what's going on here?
I'm trying to think. But no, the only way I can say this is that Jesus Juice 13 is probably the most bitched about and complained about player of this season.
Oh, okay, this season, then yeah, I would agree. That's probably fair, and for good reason.
And
I mean,
I'm not trying to take that away. I'm not trying to imply anything, right?
no. That's just like a credit to how much of a problem. Usually, when players become problems for multiple teams, maybe there's a little bit of a digging happening. That they might be a concerted effort to move against the player. We're all friends in amateur, right? We would never do that, but Jesus Juice is one of those players that, I mean, you're right on. Like, they are a problem. You have to, whenever you're playing against a team with Jesus Juice 13 on it, you have to figure out a way to deal with him, or you're going to lose. That's what's going to happen.
This is one of those players, and I've seen it happen personally, right? And I know many other people have seen it happen personally, where it's not just a matter of crushing the rest of the map, right? Like, you can do that. This guy can 1v9 and will 1v9 and 1v9s consistently, right? That's the reality, right? Like, a lot of this series from the end of TDR Jr. is shutting down Jesus Juice, which it's a nice, easy phrase on paper. It's 3 words: shut down Jesus Juice. I can't tell you how to do it.
You gotta do it, but we're not going to tell you how to do it. We're not going to give you any of the directions because no one. It's inconsistent.
I have an idea. Let me tell you my idea. This is my idea. This is how you deal with players like this. You look at the champ pool. You say, what champions do they play that are impossible to lock down? You ban those champions. Then you pick 2 forms of incredibly hard, easy to land CC, and when you're setting up team fights, you're saying, all right, fuckers, we have one job: blow CC on that guy, and then try and win the rest of the team fight. That's what you do.
And this is where you get to the problem. Okay, this is where you get to the problem, because that's nice that you say that. Where let's get to things that don't lock that down, right? But like, you start to have to ban multiple things,
right?
From there, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, let's just ban the Viego, which is a good idea, by the way. You should probably ban the Viego, but
especially right now,
right? But like, so if you throw 3 bans of Jesus Juice, well, now you have B and MG and See the Dark. They get whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
It's
kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing, but that's the power of having a player like this, is that it alleviates pressure from the rest of the map. So let's get down into the nitty gritty of that then. Then what do you think, what do we think TDR Junior's answer to Jesus Juice is going to be? Is it that,
I think it's mid lane.
I
think it's mid lane. I genuinely think they need to
smash, or like, what is going to happen?
I think they need to give draft priority. My gut tells me they need to give draft priority to everyone but mid lane. Like, go for red, get counterpick for mid, but otherwise, sorry, that's the inverse of what I just said, right? Draft priority for mid lane in terms of counterpick, but like, bans wise, really try to protect your fucking bot side. I really think their bot side is one of the weaker points in this matchup. And I almost say, just if it's going to be so much work to stop Jesus Juice, don't even try. Like, at least at the draft phase, right? Don't even. I would like ban Viego, sure.
Maybe Viego, yeah, maybe Viego.
But like, don't just do the bare minimum there and focus on your strengths, or at least showing up your greatest weaknesses. If you're not going to be able, like, don't try to tear someone who's up here down to here when you can have a little bit of weakness here that you can bring up to par. That's my take. So I really feel like it's going to be mid lane is going to be the crux. That TDR is going to be kind of spinning around, and it's going to require strong vision control and for the bot lane not to collapse. I think top lane can kind of go either way, and they can survive as long as mid lane and bot don't collapse. That's my gut check based on what I'm seeing here.
Generally, at least what we've seen in Worlds, right? And this is one of those issues of BO1s and not being able to watch every game, right? When TDR wins, in general, they are dominant, and it's a very one-sided matchup as a general statement.
So what then? I guess let's do this. And then what do we think as far as the series goes? Then, do you feel like TDR, if they take a hit early, or even if they go up a game and then take a hit, will be able to consistently bounce back from that and make adaptations? Because looking across the board,
this is hard for me from like an analytical end. I'll put it like that,
Mhm.
right? Because you have two teams that when they win very, very hard, and they win in a very, very one-sided manner. And they're able to do it consistently enough in order to be where we are right now. And that's TD Syndicate and TDR Junior, right? You look at the games that they win. When they win, it's one-sided for the most part. More so in the TDR camp. TD Syndicate has quite a few like late game turnarounds on the back of Agent C6, but that's not my point that I'm getting at here. Versus you have the teams where you just have to outplay them. You can't outdraft them. You can't like out aggress them one game. You have to be the better team game after game after game to beat them in TD Shadow and CT Tyranny. And that's why like it's really, really hard for me to sit here, especially for like a team like TDR that I'm not as familiar with as the other three teams here. It's a league I've never played in, and it was their first season, so it's not like I have, in all of my experience with their, with IBS, I don't have any real experience
That's
with
kind of the
OCL.
big look, right? Like that is just. I think Decker, you've asked the question that we can't answer, that we're going to get an answer for. It's how is this TDR team going to bounce back when put at a deficit? My gut's telling me that we're generally feeling like TDR is coming in as more of the favorite. Like it's generally more of the favorite for TDR, except for the Jesus juice factor for the other side of the map.
That's the way that I feel, because the vibe, if you will, the message, the narrative around TD Shadow all split long has been, you have to watch out for Jesus Juice. The other players here are kind of non-factors. And I don't, again, I'm not trying to say
that's
that.
not a rag on anybody. That's just the narrative that's played up.
That's the narrative.
And that could complete in best of fives, right? That narratives fall apart in that way, because that's opportunities for like for the rest of these players to step up, right? That's an opportunity not just to step up, but be given the chance to show off. So that's where a lot of the unknowns come from, because the narrative and the focus has been Jesus Juice kind of leads the team into the fray. How is this going to look in a 5-game series against a team that has been dominant and has not necessarily been challenged to adapt because they just stomp, right? There's kind of two questions there. How does Shadow react to the fact that Jesus Juice might not be the win con that he has been? And then how does TDR Junior react to Jesus Juice, and also to the potential losing early game and even losing a whole game in a best of series?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking to see happen, or that's what I'm looking to see answered going forward.
And I do think the eyes will be on the jungle matchup, right? Jesus Juice versus shit. Who wants to
put it
who wants
this way,
to take
right?
a shot at it?
You have the
Kuroa tide?
arguably
No, that's the mid laner.
single most
Oh, I'm sorry.
carry
I'm still thinking
player.
about that one.
Oh, did my mic die?
No, you're good.
No,
I'm just talking over you.
Okay.
I said we were just talking over you.
Yeah, you're fine. No, you have probably the single most individual carry player of the 20 in semifinals against a really dominant team, right? So now that we could show up Friday, I don't know when we're going to release this. This is pre-recorded, as it usually is. And
on what's today? Wednesday?
And we could have second-rate sniper and See the Dark just completely dominate. Like, this can happen, right? TD Shadow can show up and show us something that we've not seen before. Because to all of throughout Worlds, they're side players, they're other second-rate carries. I don't mean that like an, again, negative there. Like, you have your first string, your second string, you know what I mean, have been performing incredibly well, right? So it can be a lot of things. Like, so we're just going to be rambling, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think we've established what questions we want. We know what we know what we at least think the main focus narratively is, analytically is.
And so I have a rant, but I'm saving it because I think that finals is going to be CT Tyranny versus one of these two teams. And it's a rant about CT Tyranny that I've been holding on to and teasing for a while. So I'm saving it. It might not come to fruition, and it may never see the light of day.
So brass tacks.
Brass tacks.
Let's go in reverse order. I want to go first because I had to go last time. So I love 5-game series. I think this game will go to 5 games. That's a joke.
The fuck is this logic?
I don't think so. I think this will be a 3-0 series. Because of the momentum of both these teams. I think the team that loses game 1, if it's decently convincing, is going to not going to be able to answer the momentum from the other team. Mm-hmm. I am going to give it to TDR Jr. in a 3-0. And I would call it a competitive 3-0, but I think that would just be trying to make TD Shadow not hate me. Which I mean, those are great players. But yeah, TDR Jr. 3-0. See them in finals versus who did I pick? TD Syndicate.
I think Leper. Actually, I'll go first. Then I want to hear Leper's most informed opinion, because mine's kind of shitty. I'm gonna go with another best of 5, and I think I'm gonna go with TDR Jr. taking it away 3-2 to go face against whoever said CT in the finals. Spoiler: I think finals will be a best of 5 too.
That's
for another time.
Not a complicated take. Okay, so this is my thing, and I will preface this. I think that if TDR wins, it's going to be a 3-0.
Okay.
But I don't think TDR is going to win. I think it's going to be a TD Shadow 3-0.
Okay.
So someone's going to 3-0.
I think that this series is going to be really, really exciting and really, really flashy. Right? That there's going to be a lot of action. This is going to be a very, very entertaining series to watch. But I think that whoever wins the first game is going to win all the games. I don't see these teams having the adaptability and the flexibility that I think we will see in the other series.
Cool.
See what you're saying.
Well, that's it.
I'm excited to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to be wrong. I'm wrong every week.
Fair enough.
Well, Friday's going to be exciting. Well, the streams are kicking off at what, 7?
I think 7:30 for the official pre-shows.
7:30 EST or 8:30 EST?
Yes, 7:30 EST. Check out the XLNC Esports Twitter and the Aegis Esports Twitter for more information.
That's it.
That is it.
Been fun talking with you boys. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely has.
Always a great time.
And we'll
Thanks
see you
everyone
next
for
time
listening in.
for our final show, right?
Yes, there will be a final show. We don't know when, but there will be there. And with that, all of you have a wonderful evening.